Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com, and today I want to talk a little bit of Mizzou football, and I want to bring up a discussion that I think needs to be had, and that would be the development of Mizzou quarterback Connor Bazelak. I want to preface what I'm saying with, I think Connor Bazelak is a good quarterback. He is a game manager type who you can win games with him, but to this point, I don't really see him as a guy you look at and say, you know what, he's the reason Mizzou won today, a whole lot. But Bazelak really had a coming out in 2020 as the Mizzou starting quarterback after he beat out Sean Robinson a few games into the year. You know, he won the SEC Freshman of the Year award for a reason. He's a good quarterback. He completed just over 67% of his passes for 2,366 yards and 7 touchdowns in 2020. I think a lot of people were really high on Bazelak coming out of that season, and for good reason. I mean, he had a really good season for a freshman quarterback, but if there was one bad thing you could say about him, it was that he didn't throw a lot of touchdown passes, he didn't really connect on the deep ball a whole lot, and he didn't have a ton of games outside of the LSU game where he really strong-armed the team into winning a game. He only had 7 passing touchdowns in 10 games, and he also had 6 interceptions to go along with that. Looking at Bazelak's game log from 2020, there were only 2 games in which he threw for 2 or more touchdowns, and those were the Mississippi State game and the LSU game. In the Mississippi State game, he had 2. In the LSU game, he had 4. There were 7 games in which Connor Bazelak went without throwing a touchdown in 2020. A lot of this can be attributed to Mizzou not really having a ton of talent at the receiver positions, but I feel like there was enough to where he should have had more than that. But if you go back and look at a lot of the games, a lot of his deep passes were drawn up for walk-on receivers or receivers that weren't very highly rated recruits. So when Mizzou brought in burners like Dominic Lovett and Mookie Cooper this past offseason through the transfer portal and the recruiting class, a lot of people thought, well, if you get some more speedsters in here, then maybe they'll be able to stretch the field and Connor Bazelak will be able to hit them and they'll have the speed to actually get to the point of catch. Mizzou also had a pretty strong running game in 2020, so a lot of the times when they were in the red zone, their running backs, Larry Roundtree and Tyler Beatty, were the ones that got a lot of touchdowns. So Connor Bazelak would orchestrate some long drives and accumulate those passing yards, but just would never get credit for the passing touchdown, right? But there were still several games in which I didn't love the accuracy on his deep ball. Now, through 4 games in the 2021 season, Connor Bazelak has already thrown 10 touchdowns, which is 3 more than he threw for all of last year. But once again, I'm seeing a lot of passes that just aren't being completed that kind of frustrate me. In the first game against Central Michigan, he missed Dominic Lovett a couple times. He missed Boo Smith one time deep. I think one of those would have gone for a touchdown. And in the most recent game against Boston College, Bazelak just had some throws that really were bad. I mean, throws that a true freshman making his first or second start makes. And at this point, Bazelak, he needs to do better than that. He needs to know better than that. He was throwing into triple coverage on the first play of overtime against the Boston College Golden Eagles. He also had an interception earlier in that game that was straight to a BC defender. I mean, it was an awful throw, an awful read by Bazelak. And each game that goes by, the sample size of Connor Bazelak not being able to complete a pass that's over 10 yards becomes bigger. It really does seem like that he's afraid sometimes to throw the deep ball, or he's just uncomfortable. There were even times where I remember in the Boston College game, it was 3rd and 15. Drinkwitz decides to run up the middle on 3rd and 15 instead of trying something with his quarterback. And to me, I thought that was Drinkwitz. I mean, he would never say this publicly, but that was Drinkwitz losing faith in his quarterback a little bit to, again, complete a pass over 10 yards. Because then why run up the middle on 3rd and 15? I know they were trying to give some yards for their punter to make it an easier situation, so they just ran it a little bit, but, I mean, come on. Drinkwitz knows this is a team that's going to have to win through his offense because the defense is god-awful. It's one of the worst in the country, especially against the run. Drinkwitz knows that the offense is how he's going to have to win games, and Connor Bazelak also knows that. He knows that he has to lead this offense to score more points and not make those dumb throws and throw those interceptions, or else Mizzou's just not going to have a chance. And when you know that, you can't be throwing into triple coverage. Another thing that also worries me about Bazelak is he looks afraid to run. And I think a lot of that is because of that torn ACL that he had at the end of his redshirt freshman season in the Arkansas game and Barry Odom's last game as coach. He ended up tearing his ACL after getting hit after taking off out of the pocket. And since then, I mean, he'll run when he knows he absolutely has to. But other times, I think it takes him a second to process that he can run safely, and it just, there's something not going on there. I mean, sometimes he looks like a grandpa leaving the pocket. I mean, surely, I think since the LSU game, you could even throw the Arkansas game in there from last year, but I think since those games, Connor Bazelak's stock has really gone down. I mean, just the complete inability to hit a receiver accurately, and it's not like these guys aren't getting open. Like, I'm watching the games over and over again, and these receivers, they're open, they're getting separation. Bazelak just can't hit them, or he's underthrowing it, and a lot of his passes, they look kind of wobbly to me. He looks more inaccurate than I think some people are willing to admit. And I am concerned, and I think that's why you're seeing talk about maybe Tyler Macon getting some snaps or Brady Cook getting some snaps, even though I think that's a little bit crazy, because I think Connor Bazelak is still their best option. Like, I want to make that clear. Like, Connor Bazelak is a good quarterback, like I've been saying, but he has to get better. Like I said, this is a team that has to win games through its offense, and Bazelak knows that. And as the starting quarterback, you can't be making these stupid throws, and you've got to start connecting on more of these deep passes and sustaining drives. Mizzou, the offense, they've had trouble sustaining drives, I think, because, I mean, Connor Bazelak is afraid to throw downfield. I mean, I'll say it again. There was a couple plays even against Boston College where he had an open receiver, and he threw the ball at the ground, even though the receiver was wide open when he could have gained 2 yards, if you guys remember the play I'm talking about. There was another time he threw it to Barrett Bannister, out of desperation, and Barrett Bannister was on the sideline, about to go out of bounds, and Connor Bazelak throws him the ball for a completion that ended up being a 2-yard loss. I mean, why throw that in that scenario then? And there was also, on Tyler Beatty's last touchdown, that I think it either gave Mizzou the lead or got them really close. It was the one-handed catch where the ball was about to hit the ground, and if Tyler Beatty doesn't make an amazing catch there, we're talking about how bad of a throw that was from Connor Bazelak on a screenplay. Like, a screenplay, I mean, that's literally just lobbing the ball to your teammate, and he almost couldn't throw that one accurately. I don't think it's necessarily time to push the panic button on Connor Bazelak yet, but it's something to watch. It's something to monitor going forward. Because if he doesn't start progressing better, I think you will see more and more people starting to say, hey, Drink, if you're not going to trust your quarterback to make a throw, or you're going to do this little in-between crap where, you're doing a lot of these screens and dump-offs, and Connor Bazelak's checking it down, because Connor Bazelak checks it down a lot when this team needs chunk plays. If it's going to be a lot more of that, put another quarterback in that you think can do something. Because to me, Connor Bazelak, his progression is concerning. I don't think we've seen him take a step forward yet this year, and I really thought we were going to see a step forward. Now, again, we're only 4 games into the season, so we'll have to see what else happens, but that's pretty much all I got. I really wanted to talk about this and bring up this discussion with you guys, the fans, though. So that being said, tell me, what are your thoughts on Connor Bazelak, and are you concerned about his progression thus far? And make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this. And make sure you check out some of my work on ShowMeFootball.com as well as KCKingdom.com. Peace.